Dear friend, the Lord Jesus loves you. Yes, He loves you and He wants you to love Him back. Thank you for your time. Today, the 4th of January 2024, there is a press release which is coming from the Dicastery for the Doctrine of Faith. And the press release concerns the reception of the declaration Fiducia Supplicans. And as I usually do, this is a document that is coming from the Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith. I have printed it, I have read it, and I'm come to share with you what the document contains. But right from the beginning, let me say that my interpretation that I'm giving to the document is not as though I work in the Dicastery, so I know what they want to say. But thanks be to God, it is written in English, and I'm able to read and appreciate things that are written in English, and that is what I am trying to do with you. So in case I make any mistakes, if there are any errors in terms of interpretation of this document, the fault will not be from the Dicastery for Doctrine of the Faith. It may be based on my own, maybe, lack of understanding. That notwithstanding, I pray to God that He Himself will accompany me and help me so that everything that I say based on this document will be according to His will and will be according to the mind of the church. So once again, thank you for your presence. So first and foremost, this press release is signed by the prefect of the Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith, that is Victor Manuel Cardinal Fernandez, and also by the secretary for the Doctrinal Section, that is Monsignor Armando Mateo. They have issued this press release. So right from the beginning, they try to tell us why this press release. And they said, we are writing this press release to help clarify the reception of Fiducia Supplicans, while recommending at the same time a full and calm reading of the declaration so as to better understand its meaning and purpose. So maybe somebody will ask, why this declaration? Why this press release? Because when Fiducia Supplicans was released, people were asking, why at this time? Why is it released? Even though the declaration told us why it has been released, because people were asking questions and the Holy Father had to respond to their questions. So knowing that people will ask, why this press release? The press release is telling us why it has been released, and it is saying that to help clarify the reception of Fiducia Supplicans and to make recommendations at the same time. And what is the recommendation about? That there should be a full and calm reading of the declaration so as to better understand its meaning and purpose. So read the entire document calmly, and then you will come to a better understanding of its meaning and purpose. That is what the press release is saying. And it has been divided into some sections. Number 1 talks about the doctrine, emphasizing that the declaration doesn't say anything contrary to Catholic teaching on marriage and sexuality. And then it gives a practical reception, that is number 2 of the document, how it was received by some conferences. Then number 3 talks about the delicate situation of some countries where homosexuality can lead to imprisonment and stuff. The press release acknowledges that. Then number 4 talks about the real novelty of the document, the newness of the declaration Fiducia Supplicans. It tells us it is not about people in irregular situations. It is about a novelty of blessings, having a better understanding of blessings. Then number 5 talks of how do these pastoral blessings present themselves in concrete terms. So helping us explaining what pastoral blessings is all about, and then giving us concrete examples. That is found in number 5. And the last number 6, calls for catechesis, calling us to teach the people of God to better understand what the document is about. So it's basically 6 points in 4 pages, and we will take them one after the other. So the number 1 talks of the doctrine of the declaration Fiducia Supplicans, and it says that the understandable statements of some episcopal conferences regarding the document Fiducia Supplicans have the value of highlighting the need for a more extended period of pastoral reflection. What is expressed by these episcopal conferences cannot be interpreted as doctrinal opposition, because the document is clear and definitive about marriage and sexuality. There are several indisputable phrases in the declaration that leave this in no doubt. So yes, so the document is saying that the way the press release is saying the way the document was received by some episcopal conferences calls for an extended period of pastoral reflection and examining all that episcopal conferences of the world have said about the document. It is clear that we are not talking of doctrinal opposition. So no bishop conference is saying that there is something in the document which is contrary to Catholic teaching. No, because the document itself has been very clear and definitive about marriage and sexuality. You see, and then now the press release will go ahead to give us some instances within the document Fiducia Supplicans where the church has been clear about its teaching on marriage and sexuality. So for example, in the presentation, the document states, this declaration remains firm on the traditional doctrine of the church about marriage, not allowing any type of liturgical rite or blessing similar to a liturgical rite that can create confusion. This statement is found in the declaration Fiducia Supplicans. Again, therefore, rites and prayers that could create confusion between what constitutes marriage, which is the exclusive, stable, and indissoluble union between a man and a woman, naturally open to the generation of children, and what contradicts it are inadmissible. This statement is contained in the document. Let's look at another statement. For this reason, since the church has always considered only those sexual relations that are lived out within marriage to be morally licit, the church does not have the power to confer its liturgical blessing when that would somehow offer a form of moral legitimacy to a union that presumes to be a marriage or to an extramarital sexual practice. This is number 11 in the document, the Declaration Fiducia Supplicans. So based on these statements, which are found in Fiducia Supplicans, nobody can say that in terms of doctrine, the document erred or is wrong. And it's frightening to hear some people say the Pope made a mistake, the Pope erred, and so the Pope must be corrected. Based on what? Because in the document itself, the doctrine is clear. And so the number 1 concludes by saying that evidently there is no room to distance ourselves doctrinally from this declaration or to consider it heretical, contrary to the tradition of the church, or blasphemous. That is the point. Because if there is nothing in the document that contradicts Catholic doctrine, then there is no room for anybody to say that the document is heretical or to say that it is contrary to the tradition of the church or blasphemous. There is no room for that. Unless somebody can prove from the document Fiducia Supplicans that this statement in it is heretical, this statement here is contrary to the tradition of the church, or this statement stated over there is blasphemous. Until we are able to do that, then there is no way anybody can say that this statement, Fiducia Supplicans, is heretical, contrary to the tradition of the church, or blasphemous. So this is what the number one of the press release wants to bring to our attention. The number two talks about the practical reception. And it says that some bishops, however, express themselves in particular regarding a practical aspect, the possible blessings of couples in irregular situations. The declaration contains a proposal for short and simple pastoral blessings, not liturgical nor ritualized, of couples in irregular situations, but not of their unions. Underlining that these are blessings without a liturgical format, which neither approve nor justify the situation in which these people find themselves. You see, so the proposal for short and simple pastoral blessings, these are not liturgical, they are not ritualized, and it's for couples in irregular situations. We are not blessing their unions, underlining that these blessings without a liturgical format are without any liturgical format, and so they do not approve nor justify the situation in which these people find themselves. Let's continue with the reading. Documents of the dicastery for the doctrine of the faith. So let me pause here and say, you hear dicastery for the doctrine of the faith. So the point is that in the Vatican, there are many offices for various departments, like the way we have ministries in our state or in our countries, or departments. These help the president to run the nation. So these offices or departments in the Vatican, they also help the Pope in his pastoral duties in taking care of the whole of the church in the whole world. So they used to be called congregations. So congregation for the doctrine of faith, congregation for the clergy, and the rest. But recently, due to some reforms that have been made, now they have all the name congregation have been changed to dicastery. So we have dicastery for the doctrine of the faith. So this department, this office, they deal with the doctrinal teachings of the church. So if anybody has any questions about doctrines or whatever, you can write to this dicastery, this department, and then they will answer for you. So the congregation for the clergy, so dicastery for the clergy and the rest. So when you hear dicastery for the doctrine of the faith, just know that we are talking of a department or an office which is in the Vatican, and they help in running the universal church. So the document says, documents of the dicastery for the doctrine of the faith, such as Fiducia Supplicans, in their practical aspects, may require more or less time for their application, depending on local context and the discernment of each diocesan bishop with his diocese. So it can be applied immediately everywhere, every diocese and its particular situation. This press release is acknowledging that. In some places, no difficulties arise for their immediate application, while in others, it will be necessary not to introduce them, while taking the time necessary for reading and interpretation. So in other words, the press release is saying that some places, they can implement what the Fiducia Supplicans is calling for immediately. But in other places, depending on their situation, they may have to take time in introducing them or in implementing what Fiducia Supplicans ask of them. But taking time to implement them doesn't mean that you are shelving them or putting them on the back burner. It says, while taking the time necessary for reading and interpretation. So we are not implementing now, but we are studying the document to see how we can apply it in our context. The document continues. It says, some bishops, for example, have established that each priest must carry out the work of discernment, and that he may, however, perform these blessings only in private. None of this is problematic if it is expressed with due respect for a test signed and approved by the Supreme Pontiff himself, while attempting in some way to accommodate the reflection contained in it. Yes, so the press release is saying that some bishops have established that each priest must carry out the work of discernment, and he may, however, perform these blessings only in private. Because I would say, don't do it, and the rest. But the document is trying to say that none of this is problematic if it is expressed with due respect. So it shouldn't appear as though the bishops are fighting the Pope, because their utterances should show respect to the Holy Father, because this is what the document is saying, So with due respect for a text signed and approved by the Supreme Pontiff himself. I remember when we were studying canon law, one thing which I remember, we were told that, congregations, as I said, dicasteries, offices, can issue statements on behalf of the Holy Father in responding to one query or the other. But there are certain statements which may come from a congregation, but which have the specific approval of the Pope. And this is what we call forma specifica. So if that document is forma specifica, then it means that even though it has been issued by a particular office or department, but the Pope is saying that this is coming from me personally to you. So the document is saying that none of this is problematic if it is expressed with due respect for a text signed and approved by the Supreme Pontiff himself, while attempting in some way to accommodate the reflection contained in it. So long as Fiducia Supplicans is coming from the Pope himself, signed and approved by him, forma specifica, which I believe, then it means that it must be received by everybody with due respect to the Holy Father. The last paragraph of number 2 says, each local bishop, by virtue of his own ministry, always has the power of discernment in loco. Where he is, he has the power of discernment in his diocese. That is, in that concrete place that he knows better than others, precisely because it is his own flock. So every bishop know their people. Prudence and attention to the ecclesial context and to the local culture could allow for different methods of application, but not a total or definitive denial of this path that is proposed to priests. So yes, so I'm sure because of some of the backlash that came after Fiducia Supplicans was made public, some conferences of other countries were like so definitive, we are not going to do it, it will not be implemented here and stuff like that. The press releases say we admit and we acknowledge that every bishop knows his flock very well, knows the situation that pertain over there in his diocese. That notwithstanding, there is no room for a total or definitive denial of this path that is proposed to priests. So your context, your culture. But that notwithstanding, you can say that this document, which is coming from the Holy Father, is of no use to us. So for us, we are throwing it away. No, you can't say that. There is no room for total or definitive denial of this path that is proposed to priests. That is what the press release is saying. And then the number 3 talks of the delicate situation of some countries. The cases of some episcopal conferences must be understood in their context. In several countries, there are strong cultural and even legal issues that require time and pastoral strategies that go beyond the short term. If there are laws that condemn the mere act of declaring oneself as a homosexual with prison and in some cases with torture and even death, it goes without saying that a blessing would be imprudent. Yes, so if the fact that you mentioned that you are a homosexual, you can be sent to prison, you may be tortured or even killed, then the document is saying that it goes without saying that a blessing would be imprudent. So we have to be careful. It is clear that the bishops do not wish to expose homosexuals to violence. Yes, so bishops wouldn't like to do that. They are human beings. It remains vital that these episcopal conferences do not support a doctrine different from that of the declaration signed by the Pope. So the press statement is still making that point that Fiducia Supplicans has been signed and approved by the Pope. So no episcopal conference should support a doctrine different from that of what the Pope is saying. In other words, we must support the Pope, given that it is a perennial doctrine. So we are not supporting him not just because it is Pope who has said it, but more so it is based on the perennial doctrine of the church. And if it is based on the perennial doctrine of the church, why would anybody oppose it? So episcopal conferences or bishops are asked that they recommend the need for study and discernment so as to act with pastoral prudence in such a context. So in such delicate situations, they must discern the situation. They must make recommendations so that they will be able to act as pastors within that context. And it says that act with pastoral prudence in such a context. The last point of number 3 says, in truth, there are not a few countries that, to varying degrees, condemn, prohibit, and criminalize homosexuality. In these cases, apart from the question of blessings, there exists a great and wide-ranging pastoral responsibility that includes training, the defense of human dignity, the teaching of the social doctrine of the church, and various strategies that do not admit of a rushed response. So there are many countries where homosexuality is a big deal. It has been criminalized, it has been prohibited, it has been condemned. But hey, here we are talking as a church. We are talking as a church and as a universal church, and we have our doctrines. And every bishop will say that, even the Catholic Catechism acknowledges that there are some people who have homosexual tendencies. And nowhere does the Catechism say we should attack them, we should punish them, we should imprison them. We do not agree to the act having sexual relations in a homosexual kind of relationship. No. But we are fully aware that there are people who are homosexuals. So the document is saying that then we must think of ways of including training, and then a defense of human dignity. We must let people know that even if the person is a homosexual, he is a human being, she is a human being, they have dignity that must be respected. And so we must teach people the social doctrine of the church. So, for example, as I'm saying, not many are even aware that the Catholic Catechism acknowledges the fact that there are people who have homosexual tendencies. We must let people know that there are people like that. And we must find various pastoral strategies to accompany these people. So we shouldn't just give a rushed response. That is what this press release is trying to say. And then the number 4 talks of the real novelty of the document, the newness of the document, what it's trying to bring to our attention. And it says that the real novelty of this declaration, the one that requires a generous effort of reception and from which no one should declare themselves excluded, is not the possibility of blessing couples in irregular situations. So that is the point. So Fiducia Supplicans was rather helping us to have a broader understanding of blessing, and then brought in the situation of people in irregular situations and same-sex couples. But unfortunately, it looks like we have put people living in irregular situations aside, we have put the blessings aside, and we have rather turned our attention on same-sex couples, as if the document is all about same-sex couples. No, they are part, but it's broader than that. So that is what the press release is saying. So the real novelty then requires a generous effort of reception, and so everybody should receive it. No one should exclude themselves from it. And it will tell us about the novelty. The novelty, it is the invitation to distinguish between two different forms of blessings. So the document, that is what it was doing, inviting us to distinguish between two different forms of blessings. And we are talking of liturgical or ritualized, and then spontaneous or pastoral. So that was what the document Fiducia Supplicans tried to do. The presentation clearly explains that the value of this document then is that it offers a specific and innovative contribution to the pastoral meaning of blessings, permitting a broadening and enrichment of the classical understanding of blessings, which is closely linked to a liturgical perspective. This theological reflection, based on the pastoral vision of Pope Francis, implies a real development from what has been said about blessings in the magisterium and the official text of the church. You see, so that is the novelty, the real novelty of the document Fiducia Supplicans. It continues that in the background is found a positive evaluation of popular pastoral care, which appears in many of the Holy Father's texts. Popular pastoral care. No, popular not in terms of playing to the gallery, no, but trying to meet people in their various needs and circumstances. That popular pastoral care, being a pastor of your people in different situations, and yet you are there to be with them. The document says, in this context, the Holy Father invites us to value the simple faith of the people of God, who, even in the midst of their sins, emerge from their everyday lives and open their hearts to ask for God's help. So this is what we must do. You know, we must find a way of being with them, no matter what, even in the midst of their sins. They open themselves and ask for God's help. How can we then, we as pastors, help such people? For this reason, rather than the blessing of couples in irregular unions, the text of the dicastery has adopted the other profile of a declaration, which is much more than a responsum or a letter. You know, it's a declaration calling us, it's a teaching, the central theme, which invites us especially to a deeper pastoral practice, which enriches our pastoral practice, is to have a broader understanding of blessings and of the proposal that these pastoral blessings, which do not require the same conditions as blessings in a liturgical or ritual text, flourish. No? So that's the novelty. Consequently, leaving polemics aside, the text requires an effort to reflect serenely with the heart of shepherds, free from all ideology. So I like this point, you know, consequently, leaving polemics aside. When Fiducia Supplicans was issued, the kind of statements, the kind of words that people were saying about the church, about the Holy Father. I mean, if it's said by people who are not part of the church, maybe I will understand. If it is said by people who do not have the benefit of philosophical and theological training, I will understand. But if it is said by people who are to know better, pastors who have sworn allegiance, obedience to the authorities of the church, then I get frightened. Because all of us, before ordination, promised obedience to our bishops and to our successors. And I believe that bishops also have promised obedience to the Pope. And in the seminary, when we're talking about obedience and stuff, jokingly, some of us will say, when your bishop asks you, do you promise obedience to me and your successor and my successor on the day of ordination? Some people will say, yes, but with condition. Then they say, no. The obedience has no condition. It must be total. Whatever your bishop asks of you, you must obey. It doesn't mean you can't have discussions with your bishop. You can have it. But to defy your bishop, no, that is unthinkable. And that goes for all of us. So in the same way, the bishops also, to defy the Pope, that is also unthinkable. It cannot be done. So all of us, we must put aside polemics, and then we must reflect serenely on the document. And how are we to do it? We are to do it with the heart of shepherds, free from all ideology, not reading meaning into it. There must be a sign of unity. The last point of number 4 says, although some bishops consider it prudent not to impart these blessings for the moment, we all need to grow equally in the conviction that non-ritualized blessings are not a consecration of the person, nor of the people who receives them, nor of the couple who receives them. They are not a justification of all their actions, and they are not an endorsement of the life that they lead. I think this statement has been made over and over again, and by now we should be clear with it. So when the Pope asks us to grow in a broader understanding of pastoral blessings, and that is what Fiducia Supplicans basically is all about, he proposed that we think of a way of blessing that does not require the placing of so many conditions to carry out this simple gesture of pastoral closeness. It's a simple gesture of pastoral closeness, which is a means of promoting openness to God in the midst of the most diverse circumstances. Now we go to number 5. And number 5 is titled, How Do These Pastoral Blessings Present Themselves in Concrete Terms? So it will explain pastoral blessings. And it says, to be clearly distinguished from liturgical or ritualized blessings, pastoral blessings must above all be very short. And this is contained in number 38 of the Declaration Fiducia Supplicans. So pastoral blessings must be short, very short. These are blessings lasting a few seconds without an approved ritual and without a book of blessings. The document contains, if 2 people approach together to seek the blessing, one simply asks the Lord for peace, health, and other good things for these 2 people who request it. That is all that they are asking for. At the same time, one asks that they may live the gospel of Christ in full fidelity, and so that the Holy Spirit can free these 2 people from everything that does not correspond to his divine will, and from everything that requires purification. That is all that they are asking for. That God should help them. And then the next paragraph will talk about the fact that there is no need to pry into the private lives of people before blessing them. It says, this non-ritualized form of blessing, with the simplicity and brevity of its form, does not intend to justify anything that is not morally acceptable. Obviously, it is not a marriage, but equally, it is not an approval or ratification of anything either. Because you hear people say, if the same-sex couple have come to you and they are asking you for blessing, then it means that you are blessing their union as well. No. I mean, if somebody who undertakes criminal activities and so has been in prison, and if I go, I visit them in prison and I pray for them, does it mean that I am blessing their criminal activities? No. Certainly not. We don't have to belabor this point, you know. It is solely the response of a pastor towards two persons who ask for God's help. Therefore, in this case, the pastor does not impose conditions and does not inquire about the intimate lives of these people. So, two people have come before you to ask for blessing. You don't ask them, are you homosexuals? No. They have come to you, Father, bless us. You can ask them, why do you want my blessing? Then they will tell you the reason why. If they should say, bless us so that our union will be recognized as married, there you can say, no, I don't have the power to do that. But bless us because we are traveling. Bless us because we are going to start a business. Bless us because we are going to write exams. Why not? But you shouldn't, the fact that you are suspicious of them, that maybe these people are homosexual, you want to pry into their private lives. The document is saying that you can't do that. Can't pry into people's private lives before blessing them. We are giving concrete examples. It says, since some have raised the question of what these blessings might look like, let us look at a concrete example. Let us imagine that among a large number making a pilgrimage, a couple of divorced people, now in a new union, say to the priest, please give us a blessing. We cannot find work. He is very ill. We do not have home, and life is becoming difficult. May God help us. This is what they are asking. In this case, the priest can recite a simple prayer like this. Again, we have even been given example, concrete example. Lord, look at these children of yours. Grant them health, work, peace, and mutual help. Free them from everything that contradicts your gospel and allow them to live according to your will. Amen. Then it concludes with a sign of the cross on each of the two persons. So you see, we have even been given examples of this pastoral blessing. And then the press release is coming to ask some big questions. It says, we are talking about something that lasts about 10 or 15 seconds. Does it make sense to deny these kinds of blessings to these two people who ask for them? 10 to 15 seconds. Does it make sense to deny these kinds of blessings to these people who ask for them? And it says, is it not more appropriate to support their faith, whether it be small or great, to assist them in their weaknesses with a divine blessing, and to channel that openness to transcendence, which could lead them to be more faithful to the gospel? This is the question, and we need to reflect on that. In order to avoid any doubt, the declaration adds that when the blessing is requested by a couple in an irregular situation, even though it is expressed outside the rites prescribed by the liturgical books, this blessing should never be imparted in concurrence with the ceremonies of a civil union, and not even in connection with them, nor can it be performed with any clothing, gestures, or words that are proper to a wedding. The same applies when the blessing is requested by a same-sex couple. This is number 39 of Fiducia Supplicans. It says that it remains clear, therefore, that the blessing must not take place in a prominent place within a sacred building or in front of an altar, as this also would create confusion. That is it. So the pastoral blessing, it's like, it doesn't call for any media attention, drawing people's attention. No, it's not a ceremony. It's just the pastor trying to accompany his people, people of different background, different circumstances. And so long as they are people, no matter their situation, we can't throw them away. We can't deny them of blessing. Because blessing can bring about conversion. In fact, for the more reason that we are, let's say, sinners, that is why we need God's blessings to help us to become good people. We don't have to be holy before we come to church. We come to church so that through the Gospels, the teachings of the church, we become holy and better people. If you want, the church, who said, is it Pope Francis? Maybe, yes. That the church is not a museum for saints. It's hospital for sinners. So we come here to be blessed. So this pastoral blessing is not something that you will do in church. And I remember a previous video when I read the Fiducia Supplicans and posted it on Facebook. Then one guy was saying that he is waiting for that day when his priest will call same-sex couples to come in front for blessing. So to such a person, I would say that it will never happen, because the priest is not supposed to do that. It will create confusion. This is something that happens privately. And then the last point says that for this reason, every bishop in his diocese is authorized by the declaration Fiducia Supplicans to make this type of simple blessing available, bearing in mind the need for prudence and care, but in no way is he authorized to propose or make blessings available that may resemble a liturgical rite. So in other words, bishops cannot contradict the Holy Father. That is what this press release is saying, because he's saying that every bishop in his diocese is authorized by the declaration Fiducia Supplicans. Is authorized to make this type of simple blessing available. Of course, bearing in mind the need for prudence and care. But is in no way is he authorized to propose or make blessings available that may resemble a liturgical rite. So, in effect, bishop cannot say it is banned, it will not happen. No. Yes, because of circumstances, so in my diocese, we are putting it on hold. Whilst it's on hold, we are reading, we are studying, we are praying, we are asking ourselves, how can we respond to this document? But not how can we fight against this document. You are not fighting the document, because the document by itself is not heretical, doesn't go against the tradition of the church. The document is not blasphemous. So if it is not any of these, then why do you fight it? You fight it if it is heretical. You fight it if it is against the doctrine of the Catholic Church. You fight it if it is blasphemous. But if it is not any of these, then you don't fight it. So there is no room then for bishops to contradict what the Holy Father says. And we have been told that they have been authorized by this declaration to make the pastoral blessings available. So it is, if you like, it is order from above, you see. And then the last point, the number 6, talks of catechesis. In other words, calling for more teaching. And I think this is important. And this is what, in my own small way, I'm also trying to do. I have the document, I read with you. Where I can highlight, I give the highlight. Where I cannot, I leave it. So that you also listening to me, then by the grace of God, will appreciate it in one way or the other. So all of us then, bishops are our number 1 teachers in the dioceses. They must lead us, teach us. And then the priests, the deacons, and all others who have the benefit of training in, as I said, somewhere in philosophy, in theology, we must then help people understand what the document is talking about. Because, for example, one bishop says that the language sometimes is high for the lay person to appreciate. And it is true. But for us priests, because of our training, we are able to read and understand. So if we understand, then we must make sure that we explain the document Fiducia Supplicans to the people of God. So that is why the press release is calling for catechesis. And it says, in some places, perhaps some catechesis will be necessary that can help everyone to understand that these types of blessings are not an endorsement of the life led by those who request them. You see, so if same-sex couples come to me, or people in irregular situations, people who come to church, they have married traditionally, but they haven't brought their marriage to church, it's an irregular situation. A man who is married to more than one woman, having 2 wives, 3 wives, they come to me for blessing. They are living in irregular situations. So if we bless these people, we are not endorsing their relationship or the life that they are leading. Even less are they an absolution, as these gestures are far from being a sacrament or a rite. So it's not a sacrament, it's not a rite. They are simple expressions of pastoral closeness that do not impose the same requirements as a sacrament or a formal rite. So the pastoral blessings, they are simple expressions of pastoral closeness. Even though you haven't blessed your marriage, you still come to church. I still care for you as your pastor. I need to accompany you. Even though for one reason or the other, you can't receive Holy Communion because you are in an irregular situation, you are still a member of the church. I need to accompany you. Even though you have these homosexual tendencies, and because of that, maybe, I don't know, but maybe you are having somebody with whom you are in a same-sex relationship, fine. That is not an endorsement of that relationship, but you are still part of my congregation. I can't throw you away. I need to accompany you. That is what every pastor will do. Maybe taking as an example the flock of sheep, yes. So there are those that are strong, there are those that are weak. You don't throw them away. You support the strong, you help the weak as well, as much as best as you can, because they all form part of the flock and they all need the attention of the shepherd. We will all have to become accustomed to accepting the fact that if a priest gives this type of simple blessings, he is not a heretic, he is not ratifying anything, nor is he denying Catholic doctrine. So that is the point. So it's emphasizing again that, so it can happen that a bishop said that it cannot be done in my diocese, don't do it. Well and good. That is a general statement that the bishop has given, that it cannot be done. But the pastor is also on the ground and knows the situation. The person who has come to him has explained the situation to him, but the bishop may not be aware, or the other higher authority may not be aware. So if the pastor then, judging the situation, thinks that, let me give this person a simple blessing. And once again, remember, he's not doing it in public view. He's not announcing it for people to hear that, hey, these people are in irregular situations, and so I'm coming to bless them. No, it's something that is done on the quiet. Doesn't create confusion at all. And as the document said, 10 or 15 seconds of blessings, So there may be that general kind of statement that nobody should do it or whatever. But even if a priest goes ahead and gives these simple pastoral blessings, the document is saying that he is not a heretic. He is not ratifying anything, nor is he denying Catholic doctrine. So we are called upon then to help the people of God. The statement says, we can help God's people to discover that these kinds of blessings are just simple pastoral channels that help people give expression to their faith, even if they are great sinners. Even if they are great sinners, they can ask for blessings. For this reason, in giving a blessing to two people who come together to ask for it spontaneously, we are not consecrating them, nor are we congratulating them, nor indeed are we approving that type of union. this point, we have made it over and over again. So by now, we should get it. We don't have to belabor this point. In reality, the same happens when individuals are blessed as the individual who asks for a blessing, not absolution, could be a great sinner. But this does not mean we deny him this paternal gesture in the midst of his struggle to survive. So the bottom line is that you can't deny blessing to anybody, so long as the person is not asking for legitimization of their condition, legitimization of their situation, but is asking you, please bless me. There is no way you can say you will not bless that person, even if the person is a great sinner. You as a pastor, you as a man of God, you must bless them. We bless, we do not curse. And then the last point talks about the fear factor, which is part of the number 6. And it says, if this is clarified as a result of good catechesis, we can free ourselves from the fear that these blessings of ours may express something inadequate. So you can see that some of the responses that came are based on fear. If they are now asking us to bless same-sex couples, then it means that the next step is that to ask us to legitimize same-sex couples or to legitimize their union as marriage. And when people ask me that, then I said, no, when we get to that bridge, we will know how to do. But as it stands, that is not what Fiducia Supplicans is asking for. Fiducia Supplicans is asking us for a broader understanding of blessings. And it's saying, no matter the situation of the person, when they come for blessings, we have to bless them. So this is what I'm supposed to do. But I shouldn't think that if I do this, then it means that in future, no, I'm reading meaning into it. That fear factor. And I'm sure many who are contradicting it may be based on that fear, a fear that it may lead to legitimization of same-sex unions. But the document is saying if there is a good catechesis, then we can free ourselves from the fear that these blessings of ours may express something inadequate. We can be freer and perhaps closer and more fruitful ministers with a ministry that is full of gestures of fatherhood and hospitality without fear of being misunderstood. So, as fathers, like Pope Francis, like St. Francis of Assisi, we must be fathers. We must be hospitable. These gestures are very important, and this is what we need to do. And then the Cardinal Manuel Fernandez and Monsignor Armando Mateo conclude the press release by saying that we ask the newly born Lord to shower a generous and gracious blessing upon everyone so that we can live a holy and happy 2024. Victor Manuel Cardinal Fernandez, Prefect, Monsignor Armando Mateo, Secretary for the Doctrinal Section. So this is the press release that was released today for January 2024 to help clarify the reception of the declaration Fiducia Supplicans. I thank you for your time, and I pray and hope that by reading of this press release, it has helped clarify certain things for you. So once again, let us continue to be united. Let us know that one thing that keeps the Catholic Church going is our unity and also our obedience. It's very important. Obedience to the Holy Father, the Pope, obedience to our bishops, obedience to our superiors. So even when issues come up that we may not be comfortable with, our reaction towards those issues should be that of charity and respect for our superiors. And we all know that we have channels of submitting our grievances It is not by going to the press. It's not by getting onto social media and being loud. If we do that, for me, I believe it will be a sign of disrespect, and then not kind of helping foster the unity of the Catholic Church. May God continue to bless our leaders. May God bless our Holy Father, the Pope. May God bless all the cardinals who work with him. May God bless our bishops, who also have serious responsibilities of shepherding the people of God in their dioceses. May God bless our priests or deacons. May God bless catechists and all people who help in caring for the people of God in various situations and circumstances. Once again, may Mother Mary keep each and every one of us under her maternal protection and draw us ever closer to Christ the Son. May Almighty God bless us, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you.